Eric and the Sloth use eToro to trade Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other cryptocurrencies. While Eric gets the latest crypto news and trends on his feed, Sloth is feeding on an apple. Eric does research on crypto trading opportunities, and Sloth is still doing this. When Eric follows and connects with other crypto traders on eToro, Sloth is following his apple. So why are they both such great traders? Because Sloth accidentally used eToro's copy trader to automatically copy all of Eric's trades. So, whenever Eric makes a trade, so does Sloth. Trade like an Eric, or copy like a Sloth, on eToro.
Morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you very much for joining us on the 12th CoinGecko Meetup. We started doing this virtual meetup since the coronavirus pandemic started and got all of us stuck at home. We thought it would be an interesting way for us to engage all of you guys, and look where we are now. It's been like 12 months since we did this thing. So for today, we're very happy that we have three very honorable guests today. We have Cheng, co-founder of C.R.E.A.M Finance. We have Kelvin Chu, builder at Impossible Finance. And also we have Nick Chan, co-founder of Refinable. Yeah, so I believe all of you can hear me well now. So before we kind of go on with the meetup, will be interesting to hear where all of you are from. So as usual, kind of type in where you are on the chat bar on Crowdcast, and it will be interesting to see where all of you from. Yeah, so I'm seeing Egypt, Florida, so it's interesting. It's answer Montana, so yeah, very, very interesting. Wow. So yeah, I think since everyone's kind of hearing us well, kind of let's jump in right straight, and let's kind of have our guests kind of introduce themselves, right? So tell us a little bit about yourself, the project that you're doing, and before we go deep into the BSC, the Binance Smart Chain Ecosystem.
Okay, I'll start. Hello, everybody. My name is Cheng. I am based in Taipei at the moment, and I come from a cloud computing background and Web 2 prior to doing the blockchain thing. And then now I'm with C.R.E.A.M Finance. So we are a decentralized lending protocol that serve institutions, individuals, and protocols. So the protocol piece is very interesting and useful. So let's see, we have deployed across Ethereum mainnet, Binance Smart Chain, as well as Phantom, and certainly very excited to be here today. So thanks for having us.
Yeah, I guess I can go next too. So my name's Nick. So I'm one of the co-founders for Refinable. So my background is based in e-commerce and several other tech startups. And so Refinable is essentially building an NFT marketplace that's creating an accessible environment for any user, any brand, and any community to start engaging with NFT content. So we believe there's a lot of potential with NFT content, but right now gas prices are just really, really high all across the board. So by accessible, we really, really mean something that's low cost, something that's fast, and something that's secure for any user and brands to come on. So we're very focused on a general marketplace for our end users, as well as a business marketplace that is suitable for different business on-ramps to really come in and start engaging with NFTs with their own communities. So we've just deployed, we've just soft launched this week. So we're very excited to talk to everyone about our project.
Hey everyone, I'm Calvin. Maybe some of you have seen me argue with people on Lobster DAO or on Twitter. Nice to get to talk to a lot of you, and nice to meet you guys. Nick, I don't think we met before, so nice to say hi. But yeah, I'm also obviously ex-Binance, and I think was one of the first people to really start using some of these smart contract platforms as early as possible, and was really excited to see the proliferation of all of these different as Nick mentioned, things that are trying to solve this gas problem that the end retail user doesn't want to spend $100 when sending a crypto kitty to someone. So whatever we can do to try and lower those barriers and let a lot more people from a global audience participate in these decentralized networks, we think is very important, especially because of how many retail users there are within the Binance ecosystem and how many of them come from all over the world, just like what Bobby was reading out for even the CoinGecko ecosystem as well. We know that crypto is a global community, and to be honest, most people should not have to think about spending $100 anytime they're using some sort of decentralized technology. So whatever we can do to hopefully grow this type of user base and open, the doors of smart contracts to the greater world, that's something that I think we all really want to be able to do, and that's something I'm really excited to be able to do with Impossible Finance as well.
Cool. Thanks a lot for the introduction. So yeah, I guess I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Bobby. I'm the co-founder and COO at CoinGecko. So we're happy to have three of you here and all the guests that are tuning in over here. So if you guys have any questions for our guests today, feel free to leave your questions on the comments on Crowdcast, and we'll be picking a few questions to kind of ask our guests later on as well. So I guess first questions to the three of you, right? I think why, I guess you kind of partially answer it, but like, why do you guys choose BSC over, Ethereum or over other side chains like Phantom, Matic, XDAI? There's so many side chains these days. I think Leo has an interesting journey as well. You guys chose to launch on BSC first and then going on to Ethereum and then Phantom. Whereas most people kind of start on Ethereum and then go on to BSC, port over to BSC. So it would be interesting to hear your thoughts. Why BSC instead of the other chains that you guys chose to launch?
Yeah, so we initially chose to launch on BSC first, but I guess slight nuance there is that by the time our code was ready to go, we're like waiting, and BSC mainnet hadn't launched yet. I'm like, wait, we want to go. And we're like, cool, let's just go on Ethereum first because BSC hadn't started. But then when BSC did start, we were there the very first day, more or less. And our thesis behind going BSC first was because that it's a different market segment, right? It's an underserved market with huge potential. So we identified that one early based on the fact that there are plenty of assets that weren't covered in Ethereum. And at the time, what we were looking at was around particularly, if you look at some of the bigger assets that still aren't really covered, like Ripple, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, some of the other ones like Cardano and Cosmos and all of those Bitcoins that are pegged, and the asset selection I think is huge. So at the time, what we did the math was if you added up all the market cap EOS as well in there, all these larger coins that there are communities around but don't get to participate in DeFi, we want to make sure that we give these people an opportunity to cover DeFi. And as part of BSC and the peg assets, that's been very useful, and we do actually have a fairly large share of that over in BSC. So I guess we haven't really pushed it very much lately, but for anybody out there that has, these tokens that aren't serving DeFi, not only is BSC a choice for lower gas, but you could also collateralize these positions while borrowing other assets, or just simply earn an interest like you would at a savings bank by putting these tokens in. And then at that time anyway, gas price wasn't that ridiculous back in August, September timeframe last year, but now it is. So as we continue down that journey, and Binance Smart Chain has been a great partner all along, supporting us. Now that then the gas thing started happening, and then we started seeing users move over there in Binance Smart Chain, which continues down that same thesis of addressing a market that wasn't or isn't currently addressed by Ethereum.
Yeah, I think to add on to that, especially with Binance as being obviously one of the most liquid venues in the centralized world, and how much liquidity and options of assets that exist out there. If you're, let's say, building an index, like a basket of assets, and let's say you want to do a privacy index on Ethereum, you're kind of reliant on maybe some of the kind of bridging technologies or other types of things like CR.E.A.M or other protocols that help bridge assets into the Ethereum world. Whereas if you wanted to do that on BSC, you can actually do Zcash or Monero wrapped in the Binance versions of that by simply withdrawing these assets from Binance.com. So to me, I see it as something that is a very powerful kind of on-ramp or bridge to offer assets into more robust decentralized products, as Leo mentioned, with the borrowing offerings or the collateral offerings that to try and do, let's say, Polkadot assets, on Ethereum to put inside some sort of loan position is very difficult because there aren't that many protocols that have wrapped some sort of Ethereum compatible dots. And obviously that might change over the course of the future, right? But that in the short term, this is probably one of the easiest ways to be able to attract a large amount of liquidity for any type of protocol.
Yeah, I guess for Refinable, it's a little bit different because our North Star is really to create an accessible environment. And so when we really wanted to bring NFTs a little bit more easy to engage with, then choosing a platform or a blockchain that made sense to us had to have sort of low transaction fees, it has to have fast finality, it has to have a certain level of stickiness so that we're not building something that might not carry us into the future. So I think these were some of the immediate factors that we had to consider when actually building on top of another platform. But I think like strategically, there was also a little bit more nuance into why we picked BSC, and that at the time, that was earlier this year, that there wasn't really a lot of NFT marketplaces sprung up on Binance Smart Chain. And so for us, it was mostly like a blue ocean strategy for us to really go in and sort of redefine what exactly this NFT vertical looks like on Binance Smart Chain. And so for us, it was really sort of an opportunity, or like a very, very once in a lifetime opportunity to go in and really redefine what exactly the NFT experience looks like on a certain ecosystem. And so we're very fortunate to be able to capitalize that earlier on. And so now we're just we're going through our platform launches, releasing our features, and it's been quite exciting so far.
So you guys, the three of you, kind of public figures when it comes to building on BSC. However, on the BSC ecosystem, like most project founders chose to remain anonymous. When I was trying to organize this meetup, I was trying to find speakers, and almost every project, notable projects on BSC, by anonymous teams. Like Pancake Swap's biggest exchange, DEX, and Pancake Bunny, and many other DeFi clones, if you may. Why do you think this is the case? Why do you think that founders in the BSC ecosystem chose to remain anonymous? Are they up to no good? Do you think they have some bad intentions? They don't want to avoid regulatory scrutiny, but you guys chose to go public. So maybe it might be interesting to hear your thoughts, right, on why it's the case.
Yeah, I guess it's a good and a bad. I guess I can take the first stab. So I think I guess some teams choose go anon because they don't want their previous reputations to really precede what they're doing. So for example, if they're just like a fresh grad or something else, you actually have a couple of projects on BSC that are actually started by very recent graduates or very young or sort of very young developers. And I think that's sort of like a way to just hide your identity, to really just let your work speak for itself. I think on one hand, there's that. I think there's actually many, many reasons for why teams want to go anonymous. But at least for our team, we decided we wanted to create something that's very secure. We know that we wanted to go into the B2B space to court some of these partnerships and sort of telling them how to imagine and think about NFTs. And so in order for this to really happen, we understood that we had to be more public, and it doesn't really make sense if we want to create something retail that our team would be anonymous, since we would have to do our business development in person or sort of showing our face anyways. So I think on one end, it's really for us to show that we are here for the long game and really show that we are, trying to build something that's a lot more reputable. So I guess there is the factor of, if you put your name out there, if you put your face out there, that it is more likely that you guys are in it for the long term. And so that's sort of the impression that we definitely wanted to give from when we were starting out.
I guess I could go next. For us, it was launching in an anonymous way, I guess, wasn't so much the trend when we first started. It's not entirely true, because when Sushi and also the other ones on Ethereum, C.R.E.A.M, etc. It seems that people eventually sometimes come out of anonymity, sometimes become kind of pseudo anonymous. For us, it was just practicality. I think similarly to what Nick had talked about, we do want to make sure that we have a presence that is that can be trusted. I think especially when you're doing something like lending, You don't want to just say like, here's some, avatar, let's give this avatar some money. And I mean, people do, right? Because when the yields are good, but I want to make it so that the service we provide is good, and that we can also have trust across all the aspects. And I think that given a long track record of experience for myself as well as folks on the team, we don't, I guess we have the luxury of saying, look, our work's going to speak for ourselves, as Nick's referred to, as well as we have some history here of building things correctly, properly, and successfully. So might as well leverage on that. And I do see, as well as Nick mentioned, that we're going to be talking to institutions. We're going to say, look, check out these returns we're getting and check out these default rates compared to something like a junk bond in the future. You're going to look at 4 to 5% yield, and what does your default rate look like? So in order to have that conversation, I need to be able to show my face and have some credibility. But I think what would be really interesting too, I think Calvin knows a lot more founders out there in the ecosystem than I do. So I think maybe Calvin, I will yield the time to you.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, I think, boils down to the fact that I think incredible talent is everywhere around the world, including at any type of company, whether centralized or decentralized. I have a lot of friends that maybe they work at, let's say, a Google or a Facebook, and they've kind of caught the crypto virus, if you will. Was it Pomp that used to say the virus is spreading? Well, I think more importantly, crypto has started to get into the hands of a lot of really talented builders that might not have ever considered joining crypto full time, but they've started to play around with it in a part-time kind of capacity. So I have friends from high school, college, and just people that would cold message me on LinkedIn and say, hey, I'm kind of curious, like, do you have any tips on how to build, in a decentralized ecosystem? And so I think that the rise of the anonymous kind of founder over the last few months has been something that, obviously I think Sushi was the one that I think really kind of broke kind of barriers. I think, Xerox Maki and many of these other folks, for a team to go, neck and neck with a team like Uniswap that has all of the kind of VC backing, the brand recognition, and the first mover advantage, that's still a decentralized team like this, as well as for Pancake as well, to go and get this much, trading volume on a daily basis. I think, a couple of days ago with the big crash, I think I saw Pancake did something like 37 billion, and then Uni and Sushi were somewhere around 20 billion in trading volume. That the kind of glass ceiling, I think, for anonymous founders was a little bit broken over the last, I'd say, year of DeFi summer. And then more and more people at the same time are coming in and building cool stuff. And, maybe because of their day jobs or their non-competes or whatever it might be, that they cannot officially announce that it's them working on it. I think this really actually just shows that the tools, the frameworks, the accessibility of all this open source code makes it a lot easier for talented people to pick up something and then build on top of it, right? Build on top of the shoulders of giants. And I think that that's the type of innovation that I'm very bullish on, that I think crypto will always perpetually be the most advancing industry that we have, just simply because there are no other places where I could, for example, go and fork everything Leo's put his hard sweat and tears into, and then start from there, right? Or take everything that Nick's been already working on and start from there. So that's what I think will keep us always on our toes. And that's also something that I think for the three of us that, not everyone, I think, goes down the anonymous route. We chose to be, forward facing, because I think that in the long run, a lot of the moats that we can build are not necessarily technological moats, but more importantly are the kind of communities and things that we can build alongside the rest of the ecosystem to be able to make sure that we keep people, within our products.
But let's talk about the two recent exploits that took place on the BSC ecosystem. At first, the Venus exploit, where the price was sort of manipulated to go up massively and then started going down. And then shortly after that, Pancake Bunny was sort of exploited, and I think, like, depending on where you read, some people say 50 million, some people say $200 million was lost from the Bunny token. The Bunny token definitely went down like 90% or so. And this is kind of the same questions that Paul and Cryptographer has said as well. I guess the question is like, for me, is like, what do you think of these exploits? Like, and also, what do you think Binance should do to kind of address the security of BSC, or can Binance even do anything, or try to protect the image of the BSC ecosystem from any of these rocks? I mean, there's a lot of rocks happening in the BSC ecosystem as well. But yeah, it'll be interesting to hear your thoughts on these two recent exploits, what happened, and what do you think next? Any of you free to take this question? Yeah.
I'll bite the bullet. So I think there are a couple of things. One of the, I think, kind of silver linings on all of this is that, as more and more hacks happen, I think unfortunately more and more education has to happen. I think we kind of get burned by any of these things over time, and maybe some of us in the audience are folks that played around with the Wi-Fi's and all of the kind of clones of Wi-Fi that existed early on. But I think that unfortunately, because of how high the Ethereum gas fees were during the peak of DeFi summer, a lot of people around the world actually were simply priced out of playing the first round of any of these kind of yield farms. And I think that a lot of people unfortunately did learn their lessons, learn hard lessons, from BSC, because they didn't actually get a chance to play around with it the first time around. So I see some kind of positive things in just helping the kind of market mature as more and more people are kind of aware of potential risks of different vaults and other strategies that could be adding more risks to than the kind of lower level protocols. So that's one thing that I would say. And then the second part would be that, in particular, I think a lot of the smartest smart contract talent was focused on other chains for the most part, which also meant that some of the exploiters or biggest like kind of big brains out there that have been trying to break into some of these kind of smart contract protocols, I think for the most part they have been focused on ETH, because Ethereum has been the place where most of this DeFi has occurred. But if you go to DeFiStation.io, you can go take a look at the TVL of all the assets that are held on Binance Smart Chain. It's now obviously at a level that is quite comparable to the holdings on Ethereum based protocols. That unfortunately, that also does mean that any kind of ecosystem that captures more and more adoption and success will always have more eyes on it that are looking to find ways to break in, right? So I think that's something where people cannot rely on the fact that it's a Binance branded smart chain to assume that everything will be fully centralized and safe. I think a lot of the banter on Twitter is talking about how BSC is centralized and so on and so forth. Well, then how come C.R.E.A.M can
talk about that?
Any of these teams can actually run a validator if they can get the prerequisite BNB staked. So I'd say that the level of decentralization is still obviously more similar to a DPoS chain like an EOS or a Tron, which is maybe obviously not the exact replica of Ethereum, right? That we're maybe used to, but that I do think that some of the kind of main issues come from a lot of people, I think, still not quite fully grasping the full decentralized kind of ecosystem yet, and still learning the ropes. And I think that hopefully, as we do more education across the board, work alongside other informational providers like you, Bobby, that we're able to hopefully create a more inclusive, welcoming environment for people to jump in and get their feet wet in DeFi.
Sorry, I was muted. Okay, so I think a very good point you made there, Calvin. I totally agree. Like, people criticize BSC for being centralized, and then people criticize BSC for not being decentralized. Like, you can't be wrong on both of those fronts, right? How is that possible? So first of all, I think all the naysayers out there about this, they need to kind of is assess. You just can't be both. Like, whatever, pick one, right? I mean, so we see the fact that the money can leave and that all that decentralized infrastructure is in there. So I think, we could talk about the validator thing later, but specifically to the recent exploits, let me first get specific to the lending model. So what happened to Venus is very unfortunate, and I think that it was certainly also a reminder for us that we've been really focused at C.R.E.A.M on security for the last, I guess, two months or so, been shoring up the security aspects of it. But let me first go into the lending pool architecture. So the reason that this exploit was possible is because it's a pooled model. So the difference between that is back when Compound first started in 2018, 2019, they had this pool model that is users put money into the pool and borrowers borrow money out of the pool. And there was another model when Dharma first launched, which was in like an order book model. So user A would say, I have 10,000 USDC. I want like 12% and 30 days. And then it sits in the order book and it waits. And the decentralization part is that the smart contract ties the behavior. So if a borrower comes and basically it's a maker taker model, and you take that loan, you go, okay, cool, I'll borrow your 10,000 USDC. I'll pay back in 30 days. And my collateral is some Ethereum or something. The problem with that model is then you're kind of sitting around going, wait, I just put money in there. Where's my interest? The pool model allows users to put the money in and then say, oh, cool, look, you know, a second, 2 seconds later, I'm seeing interest dripping in. That's fantastic. So that model has been more won over for the decentralized world, and that's great. But here comes a vulnerability, because if you have a pool model, then any single asset that goes wrong, any single asset that is manipulated, whether it's low liquidity, Oracle failure, what have you, that allows the attacker, as you've seen in the Venus attack, to take a bunch of the assets off of the other things that they may want and easily kind of anonymized and taken out of the system. So any single asset creates this contaminant risk to the rest of the ecosystem. And the way to fix that I think Venus has talked about in their retrospective, I think makes sense, is to review the collateral factor. And we've also done the same thing on our end, and to kind of make sure that we don't get hit by the same thing. But we've also deployed this new feature called collateral cap, which allows the system to basically say only up to a certain capped amount of collateral could be used to borrow again. So in such an attack if it were to happen with the collateral cap, the damage is somewhat limited and it's not uncapped like you saw in the Venus attack. So I am hoping that we can continue to help deliver some of these best practices. I guess what I'm saying here is openly, if any of our colleagues in the lending ecosystem want to understand more about the collateral cap, they're welcome to fork our collateral cap. I'm just throwing it out there. Feel free to fork. It's a safety features. We want people to have it. It's been audited. If anybody wants to hit me up and ask me how it works, I'm sure we'll get the team to help it. I think the safety of the ecosystem in DeFi for everybody across all the chains is absolute paramount. We don't want users to lose funds, because we all look dumb if DeFi gets hacked, whether it's on BSC or Phantom or Ethereum, whatever. I think the last thing I'll say is how to improve on BSC. So I've had some discussions with the BSC team yesterday about this. And one thing that we found useful for us is really three things today. Safety features around bug bounty. So we partner with Immunify and say, look, there's $1.5 million. Why don't you show us the bug? We'll give you up to $1.5 million if you can actually do something like this. There's some caveats and terms about that, but roughly the idea behind bug bounty is we give you a bunch of money. It's clean money. Think of it as a consulting fee. One shot, take it. Like, you don't need to wash it. It's good. You're a good citizen. You're helping out DeFi. You're not a bad guy. So in that sense, black hat hackers have an opportunity to turn white hat, and I think that's critical. Second thing is insurance. People can buy insurance, and I think we need to look deeper into what the insurance ecosystem looks like for BSC. But at least the leaders in the space so far, we've seen Nexus Mutual and Cover done some good things, and then Armor5 we've partnered with as well to make insurance for DeFi easier to access. And third is transparency. So I think there's some very low-hanging fruit transparency things. Like I think the industry today is led by DeFi Safety. So DeFi Safety had published a report in early May suggesting that Pancake Bunny had a clear fail score of 31%. And things like this, I'm not picking on them for having a low score. I'm just saying that if the industry as a whole would go ahead and follow these guidelines, have clearly documented code, have test coverage, have whether the team is anonymous or not, that's a small part of the score. Do you have bug bounties? Do you have an audit? And these are things that DeFi users need a dashboard to see. And, I think we need to proliferate more of these standard best practices across the board to ensure safety of the users, because I can't expect everybody to go and dig down and do that DD across all the projects. And I think it would be good for us as an industry to adopt standards like DeFi Safety or bug bounties like Immunify or insurance to cover the users, so that more options are there, so that it's more institutional ready.
Yeah, very wise words from Leo. I definitely agree. Bug bounties are definitely key component in it. I speak to a lot of these cybersecurity audit companies, as well, and a lot of them say like, one of the things that we want to push forward is to get more projects to kind of have bug bounties, because you give the attacker a chance to kind of do good before they want to take advantage of it. Because I mean, once the knowledge is there, like the bug is there, someone's gonna do it. It's just a matter of when. So if they don't exploit it, someone else gonna do it. Might as well they exploit it first. So by having a bug bounty, they kind of get a chance to report to the team. And sometimes they try reporting to the team, but the team just don't respond, or they just ignore it. So which is kind of like unfortunate. So yeah, bug bounty, I guess, makes it better. But I like how you kind of put things out. The three kind of things that we need to do is a bug bounty, the insurance, kind of pretty robust insurance ecosystems in Ethereum, but not really on the other chains yet. We don't really see that on BSC, don't really see that on Polygon and so on yet. And transparency on all these different safety aspects. So yeah, thanks a lot for summarizing those things. We talk a little bit about some of the centralization risk of BSC. So I mean, BSC goes around touting to be a decentralized blockchain, but reality was maybe is that almost all the nodes was kind of run by Binance or its affiliates. But I think things have started to change. I think we were just talking slightly before the call that C.R.E.A.M is sort of running a node on BSC. So maybe, what do you guys think about the centralization element of BSC and what's coming next, and what's kind of the plan to decentralize it? I mean, you guys, I guess, know more about these things.
I would just say real quick that we ran a node because it's important to us as a participant to help decentralize the ecosystem. It's good to provide our users a way to earn yield from a trusted team that they already trust a bunch of their money with, and that the Binance Smart Chain team has been doing a lot of good in helping guide us into building up this node. One thing I think there's just a lot of FUD out there. I'll tell you this: our node, though we haven't been running it for a super long time, has not had any problems. And I give a lot of that credit to the Binance Smart Chain team, who was like, hey, look, check out this new build. You should probably upgrade this. Hey, have you done the standard kind of hardware requirements? If so, you're going to be cool. And we follow their instructions to the T, and everything's been fine for us. So I think there's also a bit of like, yo, get your DevOps in order. But I think Calvin probably has a bunch of knowledge about this BSC node validator side too.
Yeah. So in particular, so keep in mind that BSC is actually not officially a fork of Ethereum mainnet. It's actually a fork of something called Click, which is something that is used as what we call POA, proof of authority type of setup. But that's why you have this type of 21 node setup versus something like Ethereum that doesn't, have any type of permissioned set of validators. And so in particular, I think this bug has something to do with just out of order ordering of people submitting blocks in this 21, because I think it's supposed to be some sort of round robin kind of thing that happens within the 21 kind of validator set. And that typically on many chains, you'll see this where if one validator goes down, the way that these nodes work is that nodes are actually communicating with other nodes, right? You've heard of these terms like consensus and all this other stuff. What really happens is that people are talking to all the other nodes. But if, I'm sitting next to Leo and he's the node that I talk to, and I go down, then Leo is losing one like trusted kind of partner on the network that loses that's supposed to give him information, but does not anymore. So oftentimes these types of things kind of compound. And I think that especially as BSC is still a relatively newer chain, you have a lot of developers that or teams that are maybe not as well versed with all the kind of issues that pop up with staking. As someone that helped build and lead Binance staking itself, we ran into the same kind of pain points, and were maybe some of the same kind of people that didn't have all of the things downloaded in the proper manner. As we were getting more and more involved with these networks, that these other validators would reach out. They'd be like, hey, Calvin, maybe you should upgrade to version 0.8.7, right? And we're like, oh, okay, we didn't know there's a 0.8.7. And they're like, oh yeah, we just talked about it last week. Sorry, we didn't send it to you, right? And then as these things, these kind of kinks in the road, kind of get fixed over time. The more important thing is that a lot of these kind of developer ecosystems start to kind of grow as more and more people reach out to try and hopefully improve the kind of security and stability of all of these networks. So I feel pretty confident about these kinds of things. I think it's actually a sign that at least there's real usage. If this was just some sort of centralized black box that had no real users, then you wouldn't really hear about any kind of problems, right? The fact that there is so many users, and I think 2 days ago with this big crash, I think gas fees on BSC even spiked up to something like 180. So it's almost like we're going back to DeFi.
180 Gwei on BSC.
180 Gwei. So and that's with the 3-second block time. In theory, with the 3-second block time, gas fee bidding should never get as high as Ethereum, because there's only 3 seconds in which you can try and like up your bid against other people, right? And speed up your transaction. So mathematically speaking, hitting 180 on BSC is almost like hitting 900 on Ethereum, right? In terms of like some sort of bidding auction economics, right? So that's where I think it's really, really interesting to see that, BSC has gotten this much usage. And I think that it will be up to, community teams to really step it up and say, hey, we need to make sure that there's standard practices to reach out to everyone with new upgrades, make sure that everyone's on the same page when they go to newer versions. Because typically the simplest thing is like your classic, like, did you turn it off and turn it back on again?
Every tech support, right?
Every tech support, that it's essentially that, and maybe hit upgrade, right? Or install and replace the old one.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. So I think a lot of the media, and this is the one thing I'm always a little bit frustrated with on Twitter, a lot of people don't really spend the time to try and figure it out. And I think maybe some of the most disappointing things I've seen from, I'll point fingers at the Ethereum community at large, but obviously in general, many people across Twitter and not, that I've seen a lot of my friends that I love, and they've done great things. They just kind of share screenshots of stuff that doesn't work on other chains, and then, be like, oh, like this thing's all broken, like the vision's terrible, blah, blah, blah. But in reality, like when they see, like, let's say another smart contract or product have some issues on Ethereum mainnet, they rush to help. And to me, I don't think that we should be creating borders or enemies like that across any of these different types of chains.
Yep.
To me, it's like at the end of the day, we're serving real users, right? And I personally don't like people that are kind of fudders that just try and point out other people's mistakes. I like people, for example, Leo's jumped in on many of these other kind of groups that I've seen in responses of any of these types of hacks, right? And that's something that signals to me that this person cares about this ecosystem, right? So that then when I put money in C.R.E.A.M, I feel safer myself, right? And I think that's something that as we build more and more of these types of kind of products, it's important to realize that different chains aren't enemies. They're all just different tools that users can always choose to use, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's something that we need to always keep in mind when we're building in the decentralized ecosystem.
Very, very, very wise words, Kelvin, on these things. I'd like to jump in and ask Nick here. I mean, you're building a refinable NFT ecosystem on BSC. Maybe you can share some of your thoughts or some of your knowledge on what's kind of the state of NFTs on BSC ecosystem right now. I mean, we've already heard of forks of, like, for example, the Binance Punks, but not really too familiar with the other NFT projects out there. And also, like, I think I was talking to Leo before this as well. Do you see kind of like NFTs, kind of the same NFTs proliferating on different chains? For example, the same CryptoPunk that you have also appearing on BSC, Polygon, and the other chains, or kind of how do you see NFTs develop in a multi-chain world?
Yeah, so I think that's a pretty good question. I think you're kind of alluded to different multi-chain support for NFTs. So that's really comes down to bridging, right? I mean, we're actively exploring these bridging options because from day one, we've always said that we are content and chain and community agnostic. And so, we're really servicing the entire NFT community as a whole. So I think a lot of collectors right now are really looking at each different chain and how big the collectors are on each different chain. Because I think each different chain has different liquidities that are provided by different, say whales or people. And so I do think right now this landscape of things is that there's certain wallet holders, certain types of collectors that are present in Ethereum, and Binance Smart Chain still needs these on-ramps for people to start engaging with NFTs. So I think we are still relatively new in the NFT BSC space. And I think right now there's a lot of I would say like low-hanging fruits, or a little bit like more low-effort content that people are just forking a lot of stuff over to try and either, I guess, make a statement or make a quick buck or something along those lines. But I think these are also, they're good and bad in terms of building an ecosystem, and that, okay, yes, you have a lot of supply on the content side, but I think creating the demand, creating an on-ramp so that everything feels good, it's intuitive for people to trade, I think that is really where we're trying to build. So I do, we kind of expected a lot of our first initial issues to be from content moderation issues, because BSC is also just lowers the barriers to engaging with NFTs a lot more. And so a lot of people can just start coming in, they can start creating whatever they want. They could just upload a picture of their toes or something along those lines and just call it an NFT. I guess that is 100% part of the game, right? But I think the industry will have to mature a little bit, and we're actively running campaigns and marketing campaigns to really convince people to start coming on, convincing a lot of non-crypto users to come try out NFTs because it's a lot more accessible now. And I always tell my team that there's a lot more non-crypto people out there than crypto people. And so you're really talking about like millions and millions of new users that could come in, have an easy to use experience, use NFT as an on-ramp to really introduce them to blockchain concepts. And then after they're more familiarized with how to manage their tokens and their wallets, then they could definitely transition to other more advanced subjects like DeFi. So I do think all of these things are symptoms of a growing industry. I think there's quite a lot of work still to be done. And so we're quite excited to just be at the forefront of really defining what exactly the NFT experience will look like on BSC and how we can make it more intuitive for all the users to start getting involved.
Yeah, I think NFT is sort of like a gateway drug to crypto. Kind of we saw like this year, last year, like I mean, all these guys like kind of we see celebrities talking and issuing NFTs and kind of like getting people, and then a lot of them like at the NBA Top Shot has done a fantastic job. Like a lot of these non-crypto users who haven't heard of crypto, for example, and then just want to have this NBA Top Shot because they are huge basketball fans. And so I think we'll start seeing this with a lot of other things, and it'll be interesting to see how things grow. I mean, I think the Dapper Labs guy have sort of proven that you don't really need to issue NFTs on Ethereum to kind of give it some value. NBA Top Shots kind of issue on their Flow blockchain. So technically speaking, I guess anybody can also, I mean, at the end of the day, I guess the issuer of the NFT will be the one that really drives the value of that NFT. If they kind of look at it as a cash grab, then it will be a cash grab and they won't hold any value in the future. But if the issuer is sort of actively curating the community, managing the community and so on, then I suppose then the NFTs will probably have more value in time to come. But it'll be interesting to see how you guys grow Refinable in the coming weeks. I think one of the questions that someone asked as well, I guess a question that I'm interested in know is sort of when will kind of mainnet go live? I mean, or the main product go live for Refinable? And one of the questions that who ABM was asking was, what's kind of the depth of partnership with Mr. Beast? Was he kind of like an investor, or is there something more that's being planned that hasn't really been announced yet? Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of layers to that question. Yeah, so at least our mainnet has been out technically mainnet has been out for around a few weeks, but we've just been doing our public and private beta. So we just wrapped that up earlier, late last week. So this Monday was sort of our soft launch. So technically people can go in there and start creating engagement with NFTs with like pennies on the dollar. Right, so we already have, I think, over like 10,000 mints on our platform. I think people are just playing around with it and just seeing what is possible. So I think it's quite exciting for the team to see what people are actually creating on there. So of course, there's like certain contents from all spectrum. There's like great content from artists, from renowned artists. There's like a lot of just test content there's like picture of me smiling as an NFT as well. There's just there's a lot of cool stuff. It's a general marketplace. I think I really want to just hammer that home. It's general marketplace for anyone to come in. And so you should be expecting to see a lot of these different things. So at least there's discussion on the team to really figure out, okay, where exactly does our baseline lie in terms of maintaining our content quality and content. So there's definitely some discussion on that side that's happening this week. But I think to transition over to the depth of Mr. Beast's partnership. So Mr. Beast is an investor into our project. He invested through one of his subsidiary companies. So So he has his own legal ways of doing so. So I think we have a pretty solid relationship with Mr. Beast. We're still figuring out what exactly to do. I think there was a lot of like FUD surrounding the whole like token launch that it was just like uncalled for flack into him. And so I think we're just keeping it down low. So we maintain like a pretty we maintain a decorum with his team. So I think he's just waiting to see like what we can actually do. But essentially, he's coming in as an investor. I mean, he was very like willing to put his name out there with us. So yeah, we're very fortunate to have him on, and we're very excited to see what we can do.
I've got a question that I wanted to keep for last, but maybe I can ask it right now. For all three of you, do you foresee? I mean, last week we kind of talked about. I mean, everyone's on Twitter was kind of talking about like how ETH will sort of overtake Bitcoin as kind of like the top coin in crypto. That turned out to be a top signal, and then market crashed significantly right after all this KOLs, everyone's talking about it on Twitter. But my question actually is, I mean, we've seen huge growth in BSC in the past 1 year. Do you guys think that that BSC will overtake ETH at some point in the future? Why or why not? Yeah.
So I'll take a quick stab at that. I think a lot of people or a lot of like retail investors are very concerned with the price, and when they say overtake, they're really thinking about the price or the market cap overtakes. But I think a layer underneath that, it's really about the value and how much value the actual communities bring to the forefront, and really how strong the community is on the developer side, on the value side, on the user side. So I think there's many different ways of quantifying how effective or how meaningful is an overtake, right? So I think in terms of price, I think I try to remove myself from all price discussions of different tokens because I myself personally am a horrible trader. So that's why I focus on building instead, because it's something that I can actually control and manage a little bit better. So I think my team really takes that stance. I think it'll be great to really see where BSC can go. I think I echo a lot of what Calvin said in his last response, that BSC is still going through the growing pains. We wanted to go into BSC because it was still very new and we wanted to take a chance at building a new community. So I think in the past 2 days, we saw a lot of those issues with the network congestions on both Ethereum and also on like BSC. So I think these are things that you're testing out and battle testing your platform. And I think the development community and development response and support will definitely improve over time. So I think as that sort of gets more and more robust, we have to let BSC have a little bit of time to improve and take action on technically the FUD or the items that are being raised in the last couple of weeks. And so we are quite hopeful. And we do think there's going to be more and more developer action on BSC, and hopefully that will drive up the price. So I do think it will be an upward trajectory. When it will overtake Ethereum, I don't think anyone can really comment on that, but I think it will be very interesting to see for sure.
Yeah,
I think you could say technically that number of transactions, it's already overtaken Ethereum, right?
Yeah,
so I
that's
guess
true.
it depends on how you define overtake. If we're talking about token price, I think I have to agree with Nick there. Like, I am a horrible trader. It's only down for me when I trade. So I just take it because this is what I do. But well, when I think about it from that standpoint, it's really more like the chains are working together. I think that as infrastructure like MultiChain.xyz and another kind of bridges are out there, the meaning, the definition of the different chains sort of change a little bit. I think much the same as prior to well, when DeFi first came out, everybody kind of stuck with their own ecosystem, and then flash loans came out, and all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, on one block you can now cross between all these different protocols. How is that possible? Because in the Web 2 you need to SSO into each of your protocols, and there's no way you can just go from hop one to one. And then so that made it possible. And then our Iron Bank innovation with the Yearn side, I think is fairly powerful as well, to showcase that now not only can you do that, you can also have lending across protocols. But I think what's interesting to watch is what the cross-chain future looks like, as BSC is now complementary to Ethereum. No doubt that there are users that probably wouldn't have come online if it weren't for chains like BSC, allowing people. All my friends just getting into DeFi right now, they're all starting on BSC. Nobody's like, yeah, I'll just hop right into Ethereum. Like, yeah, I'm rolling in with like 300K. Of course, I'll come into Ethereum, maybe, right? But if you're rolling in with like most people, you're gonna care about that $50 gas price. So I do think that it's more complementary, but in terms of overtaking, it's overtaken for sure in the transaction side, and the value it brings is more of a complementary one, less of a competitive one. But I do think that the future of these multi-chain universe is going to be one where it's going to be more specialized. So Ethereum may continue to be expensive, but if so, then it becomes kind of like the more institutional layer, and then other chains can kind of further find their own specialization. Is my opinion.
Kevin, any comments or?
I think so. First off, I actually still really do believe that Ethereum will pass BTC because, to be honest, I really don't think that the people that are the decision makers of the world today. I think that there's a new age here. BTC is already one generation too old. I know I'm going to piss off a lot of people here, but that I'll talk my book, right? I hold 0.033 wrapped BTC on Ethereum, and I haven't been able to sell it, move it, or do anything because ETH gas fees have been too high. But that is my only holdings in BTC. I really do believe that if I'm building on all these different chains, I'm not able to launch C.R.E.A.M on BSC on BTC. I can do it on BSC, right? I can do it on Ethereum. I can do it on Polygon. I can do it on all these other chains. As a builder, I don't need BTC to live, just like I don't need gold to live, right? None of the people that I aspire to try and reach, whether it's the Elons or the before all of his tweets, or the Bill Gates' Steve Jobs, or maybe Sam Bankman-Fried's on the Forbes list, they didn't make their fortunes off of investing in gold. They invested in things that they built themselves and then bet big on themselves. And I think that's what, the opportunity that we're presented with for every single one of our products within the decentralized ecosystem, that our biggest bets are always going to be ourselves in terms of price action, because we're not the best traders. We want to specialize in what we do and make sure that we have good incentive alignment with the things that we're building, right? But that outside of that, then the next level outside of that, if you need to talk about some sort of investments, is what are the platforms that enable the most hungry, most motivated builders to build stuff on top of their ecosystems? Well, I think it's very clear that Ethereum has the biggest developer community today, and I don't like to bet against developers. Shorting is the easiest way to get wrecked, and I sure as hell don't want to short, developers that are building the next, futures of the finance and tech worlds.
Yeah, I think you guys are summing up really nicely in everything that you just said. I think like Leo mentioned early on, like I think the BSC ecosystem really caters to a whole different group of audience. The guys that come in right now or past few months, they will never want to go to Ethereum to interact with all these DeFi apps. There's just no way that anyone's going to pay like $50 to swap on a Uniswap, transaction. Ethereum's only used by whales right now. Those that have sort of got in 2 years ago and sort of seen their value gone up and, kind of got familiar with Ethereum and just don't really mind paying $50. That's kind of like, because in terms of ETH, it's still quite small, but in terms of dollar value, it's just quite high. So yeah, I think you're right. There's a lot of new users coming in. It'll be interesting to see how this multi-chain will grow about, and I think things will get more interesting and more complex in the coming years. I know a lot of us were sort of struggling with all the growing pains with the multi-chain world. Back then it was just Bitcoin and ETH. Everyone was just on ETH actually, because you can't really build on Bitcoin or the smart contracts. So it was just purely ETH, and now everyone's kind of going onto ETH, BSC, Polygon, and then they have this layer 2 on ETH later on as well. So it'll be interesting to see how things develop further. And as Chris rightly said, and Kelvin rightly said, that you don't really want to bet on developers. Shorting's like the easiest way to get wrecked. I like that. I like that quote. And yeah, so yeah, I guess that wraps up our meetup for today. I just want to say thank you very much, Nicholas, Leo, and Kelvin, for taking the time to come and talk about the BSC ecosystem today. I think we definitely really learned a lot today. I just want to say a special thank you to all close 1,991 of you up here, close to 2,000 of you up here listening to this meetup. Thank you very much. Before I forget, after this meetup is also broadcasted on Decentralization and at the CoinGecko HQ and also on Crypto Voxer. After this meetup, there will be a broadcast where we collaborate with DAO Records there will be a Twitch stream for some EDM music and play. So if you are interested, you can stay on and listen to, or we will be posting some links below. So feel free to join. And just want to say thank you very much, all of you, for taking the time to join us on the 12th meetup.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yep, thanks for having us. It's a pleasure to be on the panel with all of you guys.
Yeah, best way to wake up in the morning. So really enjoyed chatting with all of you guys, and hopefully feel free to reach out to any of us on Twitter, anywhere, anytime. I think the most important thing about DeFi is that we're all here to learn together, and I think that anything that you guys ever want to share, ask, or publicly add us on Twitter, feel free. We always just want to welcome more folks into the world of DeFi.
Yeah, I also want to say thank you to Bobby and the team, not just for hosting this event, but man, your product's awesome. Like I use it like every day, like probably most people on here. Not to, like shill CoinGecko or anything, but more like a thank you for building something awesome and continue to move so quickly to cover a space that's really hard to cover.
Yeah, all credit goes to my team. I kind of done it without a team. I'm just up here talking to you guys. So obviously someone's out there building and improving the product.
Is there a candy bounty that we get for coming on this panel?
Talk to my team about it. I talked to my team about it. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you very much. So thanks a lot, and enjoy the show with DAO Records after this. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Meet Chris and Mark. They've both heard of Bitcoin and Ethereum. But while Chris is using eToro to trade top cryptocurrencies, Mark keeps getting cold feet. Chris uses eToro's simple and intuitive platform to build his own crypto portfolio. And Mark is still waiting for a sign. Chris follows and connects with other experienced traders on eToro. Mark is following the advice of Eugene, a friend who prefers to keep his money where he can see it. Chris uses eToro's copy trader to automatically replicate the portfolios of leading traders in real time, while Mark is still searching for answers. Do you feel like a Mark? Join eToro and gain the confidence you need to trade crypto. eToro. Sign up for free.